truth is I'm tired. I am showing you how I ingredient prep, which is a bit different than meal prep, and you're not eating the same thing over and over again. Also, shout out to y'all for the tips. It worked. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. In this video I am showing you how I ingredient prep, which is a bit different than meal prep. Meal prep is where you actually prepare the entire meal. That way you just take it out the fridge and warm it up, whereas ingredient prep is where you just prep individual ingredients so that throughout the week you can piece meals together. So it allows you to be creative while not eating the exact same thing every day. I've done this a couple times and it worked phenomenally for me. It made my weeks so much smoother. So I wanted to show you how I do it. And if you are unfamiliar with it, I hope that you find that it's helpful for you if you decide to give it a try. So without further ado, let's get into the ingredients that I'll be making this week. So I'm starting out with the ingredient that's gonna take the longest, which is my roasted sweet potatoes. I'm actually cooking the sweet potatoes two different ways. One will be baked so that I can do stuffed sweet potatoes, mashed sweet potatoes, and the other is gonna be cubed. So for my baked sweet potatoes, I aggressively, why was I poking that so aggressively? But I aggressively poked holes into the sweet potato. I coated it in olive oil, wrapped it in parchment paper and then foil, which meant I had to bake that a bit longer for about an hour or so. And then for the cubed sweet potatoes, it was pretty generic. I just cubed them and I kept the seasonings really simple. So just tossed it in some olive oil, added some salt and black pepper. And after I put those in the oven, I moved on to my rice. I really wanted to use quinoa this week, but I ran all out. So I had to make do, okay? And also, thank y'all so much for sharing all the rice cooking tips in my last video. Y'all really looked out for me because y'all know your girl was struggling. It just kept bubbling over. So those tips helped tremendously, and you'll see that the rice turned out perfect. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still getting a rice cooker though. It was much easier this time around using the tips that y'all shared, but so many of y'all told me that a rice cooker is the way to go. So I'm taking notes. And then one of the two veggies that I'm actually prepping in advance is broccoli. Child, I love me some broccoli. So I'm taking half of the batch and roasting it in the oven. I'm not doing anything fancy because I plan to use this across meals. So good old olive oil, salt, and black pepper will do the trick. The rest of the broccoli, I just plan to store in the fridge so that I can cook later in the week. Next up is one of the 3 protein ingredients that I'm prepping ahead, which if you've been here, you already knew this was gonna be on the menu. Tofu. In last week's video, I told you how much I've been enjoying shredded tofu. So this week I wanted to prep a batch of it. Now for this block of tofu, I actually froze it and then let it thaw out, which is my typical go-to way to cook tofu. But that is only when I'm air frying it and keeping it in chunks or cubes. Now when it comes to shredding, it did not do well. It crumbled more than it shred. So the next time I want to make shredded tofu, I will not freeze it. I'm just going to put it in the fridge, take it out, drain it, press it, and then shred. I just drizzled that with some olive oil, coconut aminos, and I baked it in the oven on 390 degrees just until it was crispy. So it took me about 15 to 20 minutes to get the level of crisp that I actually wanted. I also had a block of fava bean tofu in the fridge and decided to use that for my tofu scrambles. My go-to seasonings for my scrambles are curry powder, garlic and onion powder, smoked paprika, turmeric, nutritional yeast, black pepper, and black salt. However, I ran all out of my black salt, so I had to improvise, and I just went with coconut aminos because sometimes you just got to use what you have on hand. Now, I let that sit for a bit because I had to finish up my rice. I know y'all see that rice with the clean pot. No spillage from me this time. So again, shout out to y'all. I also threw the shredded and crumbled tofu in the oven now because I had to wait for the oven temp to cool down a bit from the baked sweet potato. Now for my scramble, I would normally add in onions, bell peppers, tomatoes, kale, etc. But I was very limited this week and I told myself I was not going back to the grocery store. So I just made do. As you can tell throughout this video, I made do with what I had and what I actually wanted to use. Oh yeah, and I had to go back and switch out the baking sheet that I was cooking the shredded / crumbled tofu on. The last one I had was just entirely too small, which didn't allow the moisture in the tofu to cook out. So just be mindful of that if you decide to do it. Just make sure you have enough room and that the tofu isn't crowded on the baking sheet. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you've probably seen me post about chia seed pudding a couple times each week. And that's because chia seed pudding is just having a moment in my life right now. I do 2 tablespoons of chia seeds for every half cup of dairy-free milk. And then I do 1 to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup as a sweetener, just depending on how sweet I want it to be. And I like to let mine sit in the fridge overnight before actually enjoying. I just prefer a thicker chia seed pudding, whereas I know sometimes some people say you can leave it in for like 10 minutes or so. It's just not thick enough for me then. So I prefer to do mine overnight and I enjoy it. So the cooking is all done. The next thing I want to do is I want to make some chickpea tuna for the week. So that's what we're about to make. And then I also have some fresh greens that I want to just go ahead and wash, chop, so that during the week it's just easy for me to just like grab and go. Now chickpea tuna is just one of those recipes that I probably would never get tired of. I just enjoy it so much and it's so versatile. I started out by chopping my veggies, so I cut up my red onion and celery, and then I added that to a bowl along with relish, mustard. I'm making mine a bit different this time for some added protein. So I went in with tahini as well as a dairy-free plain protein yogurt from the brand Kite. I also added in some capers, salt, black pepper, dried dill, garlic powder, onion powder, and crushed seaweed. If you do have black salt or Kala Namak on hand, use that instead of regular salt. It just makes it taste even better. For me, chickpea tuna is just a great option to have for either lunch or dinner. I love adding it to my sandwiches, on wraps, on salads. And you can also enjoy it with crackers or veggies. You just can't go wrong by making a batch for the week. Now, at this point, I felt like I had been cooking for an army. Okay, not really, but your girl was getting tired. However, I really wanted to make a copycat version of the tahini Caesar salad dressing from Kava. If you've had it, you know it is too good. And I'm so glad I pushed through. So the dressing consists of tahini, garlic cloves, Dijon mustard, nutritional yeast, lemon juice, capers, salt, black pepper. I actually ran out of my vegan W sauce, the Worcestershire, y'all know what I'm talking about. So I used coconut aminos and balsamic vinegar as substitutes, and it worked just fine. Are y'all seeing the trend here? We are making do with what we have, okay? I also added in some soy milk and a bit of olive oil. So I went back and created an official recipe for this one. And in the official recipe, I did add a dairy-free yogurt to it, just to help make it creamier. I'll include that one in the description box, but if you want to do it without the dairy-free yogurt, feel free to. It tastes just as delicious. I blended everything up and then I thinned it out with some warm water. You just want to add as much warm water as you prefer and kind of adjust this to your taste buds as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed this and I can't wait to show you how I used it up. truth is I'm tired. I wanna stop. But the last thing I gotta do are these greens. Push through, Shakayla, push through. You are almost done, and the week is going to go by smooth. All right, now, we are almost to the finish line. The last thing I had to do was get my romaine lettuce and my dino kale together, which I just plan to use this in a variety of ways this week, and I knew how important it would be for me to have this, so I just had to push through. These are typically my go-to greens when it comes to salads. I probably almost always have them on hand, at least one of them. And here I'm actually giving my dino kale an ice bath. It was pretty limp and not as firm as I wanted it to be, which I'm sure it's because I did not store it properly. But giving it an ice bath will help crisp it up. You can also do this with romaine lettuce and it works wonders. Y'all, I cannot believe I just cooked all of that. But I am very, very excited because I know it is going to make my week so much better. Like right now, I can already taste the tahini Caesar on a little salad. I can also see me like taking some of the rice, combining it with the kale and some broccoli and tossing it in this dressing. Or I could take the, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not gonna spoil it too much because in the next video that you see, I'll be using everything. Also, shout out to y'all for the tips on how to prevent my rice from bubbling over. It worked and I'm good, but I definitely do think I'm still gonna get a rice cooker. But all in all, the process was so much better this time versus in my last video. So shout out to y'all who gave me all the amazing tips. I really do appreciate it. I hope that this video was helpful for you. In the description box, I do have a Shop My Kitchen. So if you have any questions on what items I'm using, the containers, the pots, the pans, so on and so forth, that will be linked in the description box. So be sure to check it out. But I will see you in the next video and thank you so much for watching.